Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Codex World Eaters, a new upcoming like Space Marine, Chaos Space Marine Codex from Games Workshop that they kindly sent me as a complimentary digital review copy. So I don't have a physical book to tell you about, and I can't speak necessarily to the binding, the quality of pages, the color, the printing, or anything like that. And I'll be working off my computer today, obviously, to talk about what is new and exciting in this Codex. And what I think of the overall sort of like production of this new book. So, Codex World Eaters is new in that it's not a update of a previous Codex. If you have played Warhammer 40,000 for a while, you know that most of the Chaos Space Marine Legions have their own sort of like little book, like the Death Guard, Thousand Suns, and they have their own sort of like core list of God-themed stuff that they can play with. The World is no different. They're dedicated to Khorne. It's just leaving the Emperor's Children basically as the final fourth chapter. And they are precipitated by a whole host of new miniature releases with a brand new Daemon Primarch. So we've got Khorne to go along with Magnus and Mortarion. Angron has now joined the party as one of the new Daemon Primarchs, which means it's just Fulgrim on the way, hopefully, at some point. And the four, I guess this is the Fab Four, the Beatles of Chaos will be complete, with Abaddon sort of hosting as the key undivided figure in the Pantheon of the Gods. So, great big color section here, lots of cool new models. They have their own themed cultists. The venerable Chaos Space Marine Berserker, probably the oldest plastic kit in the range, because they were previous to the Space Marine Rhino, which I think it might now actually, maybe there's some, no, I think all the older stuff's been replaced now. I think the Khorne Berserkers were definitely the oldest plastic model kit still in production up until these being replaced. And I think the Falcon Grav Tank actually is probably now the oldest still in production Games Workshop model kit. I think it's still Eldar, because the Chaos Space, the Mark II Rhino, or the new Rhino, the Mark I Rhino, no, it's Mark II Rhino, came out in 2001, I think. Whereas the Space Marine Falcon came out, or the Eldar Falcon came out in the 90s. So I think the Falcon was after the Khorne Berserker kit. But at this time, the Khorne Berserker kit was really cool. It came out with the same sort of like redo of the Khorne Berserkers in the 90s with the Chaos Space Marine Codex. And yeah, and these new Khorne Berserkers look fantastic. Like, they keep all the same aesthetic. You could literally just use these as Horus Heresy miniatures too. I would use them as Red Butchers, just with like different backpacks. If you just stuck the like Horus Heresy era backpacks on them, like the Mark IV backpacks, the Mark III backpacks, they'd be perfectly acceptable. Actually, you can even convert these just by taking like the big posts that the vents are on, cutting them off and putting the vents on them thing. You could easily use these as Horus Heresy miniatures as well. They would super easily be Red Butchers. You could almost look at this as a Horus Heresy release as well. They got their own cultists. Like I said, you've got these cool like jackals. Jackal? Is it jackal? Don't know why I did that. That have come out to complement them. Because the idea is that these are like gladiators and they've got their own sort of like human Khorne worshippers following them around. The organization of the Khorne worshipping Chaos Space Marines obviously are, you know, are loose at best. They make use of all the current plastic vehicles, and there's also a really cool champion on a Juggernaut, which I think is new. I'm pretty sure this is a new Chaos Space Marine champion on Juggernaut. To go along with it. They have their own Possessed, which is the Khornate 8-bound, and they are like a unit of Possessed that are basically these like Khorne Berserkers that have been shoved into these 8-bound cages. And like the like Legion Butchers basically stick them in there, and they go to like psychic war with 8 demons at once, and sometimes they open the cage up and they're just gone. Like, they don't know what happened to them. Sometimes there's just like chunks of body parts everywhere. Sometimes they've just been like tortured, mutilated, and sometimes they come out basically having mastered 8 demons and infused them into their bodies and become these like supreme like possessed basically. So even more powerful than normal possessed because they have 8 demons instead of 1 demon like co-hosting their body. And the Exalted one has actually formed some kind of like symbiosis with them. So really cool new miniatures. Obviously, there's like tons of like modeling opportunity with them, and they're fairly modular. But the big centerpiece is Angron. He's amazing. He looks fantastic. This is obviously possessed Angron, so it's after he ascends the demon hood. he has 2 cool new weapons. The story behind his sword is amazing. Basically, in the Eye of Terror, there's this like Slaaneshi demon prince who builds a giant gladiatorial complex where they torture whatever the best fighters of any race he can get his hand on, make them fight gladiatorial games. And eventually he just kills them himself and is like, ha, there's no greater fighter than me. And so Angron's, he's pissed for 2 reasons. One, because it's not a Khorne demon. He's like, there's no way a Slaaneshi demon should be even making this claim. And 2, because it's not him, because he's the greatest gladiatorial fighter of all time. And then 3, because it's kind of reenacting his like enslavement when he's first captured by these like high riders who turn him into a gladiator and put the butcher's nails into him. So he goes into the complex, and to prove a point, he doesn't take any of his weapons with him. He just takes the giant iron bar. Like he does the Simpsons things where he takes the inanimate carbon rod with him, and he just beats everyone to death, including this like demon prince, in minutes. And as he like caves the demon prince's head in, the iron bar sucks the demon prince into it and is transformed into this giant sword. So the big hook-ended sword that he has is infused with the souls of all of the people that this Slaaneshi demon prince killed and the Slaaneshi demon prince, and he's just torturing it by carrying it around now and inevitably proving that he's the better man forever. And then the chain axe was made as this like giant offering by some dark Mechanicum cult who were worshipping Khorne. And they were trying to make the ultimate weapon to please Khorne, and so they present it to Angron, and Angron's like, this isn't how you please Khorne. He just picks it up, and he murders the entire planet full of like Dark Mechanicum worshippers and goes, you only can please Khorne by offering your blood. Like, it's only blood and skulls the only thing that please Khorne. And so like, he's just kind of carrying it around now because he's still got it, although the offering was completely pointless, like from his point of view. The new Demon Prince, obviously, from the AOS release of the Slaves of Darkness, also makes a very cool Khorne Demon Prince. And then there's a converted, I loved seeing a converted miniature in here, Master of Executions using one of the new heads from the Khorne release. So very cool stuff. I like that there's a converted miniature in here. I like there's Master of Execution with the Khorne head. You can just use the regular one as well. So there's that's the color section and the background section. The background section actually has, I should make one more comment, although everyone's screaming at their screen right now probably. The background section has some really cool fluff in it. I shouldn't say fluff, background material. From the point of view of it kind of expands the universe to show that there's not just humans worshipping Khorne. One of the Demonic Champion stories is about this, what are they called again? They had this really cool name. Hang on, I have to scroll back to it for 2 seconds. They're called the Nautilachnids. So they're a species that the Nautilachnid belonged to had so worshipped Khorne that they had butchered each other for their god, and only the like strongest lived. And so there's this Chaos Champion now that's a Nautilachnid and has like 8 arms and is like this like incredible underwater crustacean creature that worships Khorne. There's a bunch of these in here where they're talking about other races that worship Khorne that are part of his like pantheon of champions. So I think that's really cool because they don't typically reference non-Imperial Chaos Human Eldar like big name factions in here, and there's a lot of that in here, like talking about other races and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. And then the last like background piece, you don't really know who it is, but it's like a POV story of a Khorne Berserker fighting their way up the leg of an Imperator Titan called the Hand of Righteousness. And the whole story basically is like how he's offering, like how like a fortress is a fortress. It doesn't matter if it walks or not. Once I'm loose inside it, I'm going to kill everything inside. It's just like champion of Khorne. And he's killing his way through all the thralls and all the servitors and all the thing up and up and up and up. And finally, he slays the princeps. He like arranges their skulls perfectly on this like thing, and he's like, I finally killed the Titan, but I'm not done because there's one last skull to offer. And he severs all the cables on the head of the Imperator Titan, and it starts to like plummet to the earth. And as it's about to hit, he cuts his own head off because that was like the final skull to offer Khorne. I thought that was such a great piece of writing, and so sort of like the nihilism in this book is just dripping out of it, because that's the whole thing, is like a lot like the Night Lords. The protagonists in all of the literature in here of the World Eaters is presented as being very self-aware. They're riding along in their like meat tractors of bodies that are being completely controlled by the nails and by like the rage that Khorne's like filling them with. and they're like reflecting on the fact that they've just become these living weapons. Like, there's a really great bit about Karn too, and about when he's lucid. Like, he's just kind of like, he's really calm and soft-spoken, and it's very like serial killery, where like, you know, he's capable of this like immense violence and like complete berserker rage, but when he's not in it and the nails are just kind of like grinding away at him slowly until he breaks down again, he's this like incredibly like educated, tactically aware, brilliant person that was like the only person that could talk Angron down. And it's this really cool like two-sidedness it's presented with. But also the Legion is very aware that like they're not meant to live either. Like the Berserk, like the World Eaters themselves are like slowly all dying, and that the reason that maybe Karn fractured it was that they couldn't, it would just slow it down. But that this like that they're also being tormented, basically. They're being, the rage is this own sort of like curse and this punishment for all the things that they've done. It's really cool. So anyway, the writing's really good in this one, short story long. And I really enjoyed it because it's like, you use two ways of writing the World Eaters. One is they're just this simple mindless weapon. It doesn't make them that interesting. You have to present them as being in some way tragic or flawed, because you can't really as a player identify with them otherwise. It's too like Mortal Kombat, like blood and guts, you know what I mean, otherwise. And they do a good job of like kind of getting inside it and making you ride along and seeing what the tragedy and the nihilism and the irony is in all of it. So the second part is the rules. Yay, we're there! We get to page 43, we're actually in the rule book. So I'm gonna just spoil the ending here and say that the best part about this codex so far is how small it is. It is focused on Khorne. It is focused on the unit entries for Khorne. There are very few stratagems. All the war gear is divided between the two ways of playing this army. I'm so happy about this. There's two reasons that could be. It could be the Leagues of Votann reason, where it's a small collection, it's an initial launch. That could be it. What I'm really... The Leagues of Votann didn't do one thing, though. They didn't strip down the stratagem pool and make it very, very limited. I'm really hoping this is kind of like what the Idoneth Deacon were at the very, very end of first edition Worm Age of Sigmar, where this is presenting a new style of book, where this is what we're going to get going forward for a new edition of the game that's probably coming this summer, knock on wood, almost definitely coming this summer if you know the way the patterns work in sales. I'm hoping this is what 10th edition books look like. It's way easy to absorb. I'll be honest, I don't love doing 40k book reviews compared to doing AOS Battletome reviews, mostly because there's so many individual, outside the stuff that is a miniature, things to talk about. It just makes them really long, and it's a lot to try. Like when you've never played with the army and you're trying to like compartmentalize it and figure out what's good, that's like a whole job every time you read one of these books. This one is, I like the Death Guard one because it was a bit shorter. This one's the same way. So when you get into the rules, we are looking at some Battleforge rules for the armies. They're pretty simple. There's a World Eater detachment in your army, and if you have a World Eaters one, it can only include them, and then Agents of Chaos and Unaligned units. Their troop choices in the World Eaters army gain the OBSEC rule. That's your basic Battleforge rules. Then you have Chosen at Khorne. These are your basic rules. You can include a maximum of 1 Demon Prince unit in each World Eaters detachment, because you can only have 1, you can't spam them. And then Mere Mortals, you cannot include more Cultist units than Butcher Astartes core units in each World Eaters detachment in your army. So you can't spam their basic like Cultist units either. All 1-to-1. And when mustering your army, if it includes 1 or more World Eaters detachments, you must select from the following 2 different army types. Either a World Eaters selectable keyword, or Disciples of the Red Angel selectable keyword, which has additional restrictions. So the World Eater is kind of like the everything in this book version. Disciples of the Red Angel is when you're worshipping Angron and you're going to have Angron in your army. It's kind of like the Be'lakor army, but for Angron. When you select one of these sub-faction rules, then all of them get that Legion trait, blah, blah. The World Eaters units will gain Relentless Rage, and you gain access to all the other rules in their sub-faction set, which is all their stratagems and all their enhancements. They're both siloed. There isn't like a big, here's the core one everybody gets, and then here's the like little silo of stuff. It's just silo, silo. I love it. It's nice and simple. All right, relics. When you're mustering your army, if a World Eaters character model in your army is the Warlord, you can give one of these relics to your World Eaters character unit from your army instead of selecting a relic from any other source. Note that some relics replace a piece of existing war gear, blah, blah, blah. Warlord traits, if your World Eaters character is a Warlord, blah, blah. And then stratagems, same thing. And then abilities. Demon Engines, 5+ invul. In your command phase, they get a wound back, just like the normal Demon Engine run the Chaos Space Marine book. And then Warp Stripe, it's just teleport. You can arrive anywhere on the table, not within 9 during the reinforcement step. All right, they still have Blood Tithe, which is like they have Blood Tithe. It's a lot like the AOS version of Blood Tithe. They earn a Blood Tithe points whenever they start killing things. And the more stuff they kill, the more they get to use Blood Tithe points. It's a lot like the honor points in the Night thing. It's a bit simpler though, because it's just about killing, Morty. I just love killing. Each time he gets destroyed, gain a blood point. If every unit in your army, is a World Eaters unit, excluding Agents of Chaos or Unaligned, you gain Blood Tithe points. You don't get Blood Tithe points when you are playing the Disciples of the Red Angel. It's only when you have the World Eaters keyword. Each time you destroy a unit, you gain a blood point. At the end of every phase, if any character, monster, or vehicle units were destroyed in any phase, gain a blood point. At the end of each phase, if any Titanic units were destroyed, that phase get an additional blood point. So the vehicle plus Titanic would give you 2 basically instead of 1. So you're looking at earning blood points by killing stuff. Any unit, doesn't matter, but characters, monsters, and vehicles give additional ones on top of being a unit, so it's 2 for each of them, and then 3 basically for being a Titanic unit once you add all the things together. So pretty easy to keep track of. Anything gets you 1. If it's a character, vehicle, or monster, it gets you 2. If it's also Titanic on top of that, it gets you 3. Unless it's like character Titanic. Mix and match, basically. At the end of each phase, after gaining Blood Tithe points, you can spend them to purchase a Blessing of the Blood God. You can purchase as many other Blessings of the Blood God as you wish during the battle, but you can only purchase 1 per phase. With the exception of Reborn and Blood, you can only purchase each Blessing of the Blood God once per battle. Each Blessing of the Blood God has an associated Blood Tithe cost. If you don't have enough Blood Tithe cost, you can't purchase it. When you select a Blessing of the Blood God cost, you deduct it from your total. All right, so these are all basically you ramp your army up. It's almost like the Drakari ones, but instead of being like turn-based, you buy them as you kill stuff. So for 2, you can buy Spiteful Nullification. Until the end of the battle, each time a World Eater's model from your army would be lose a wound from a mortal wound, get a 5+ wound shrug. So as soon as 2 units are dead, or a combination of like things that make it worth more Blood Tithe points, you can just get a 5+ mortal wound shrug for the whole army. For 4, it's Warp Blades. Until the end of the battle, each time a World Eater model from your army makes a melee attack, the AP goes up by 1, so army-wide AP 1 for 4. Rage Fueled Invigoration for 3. Until the end of the battle, add 1 to charge rolls. For 5, Martial Excellence. Until the end of the battle, each time a World Eater model from your army scores hits in melee on a 6, you score an additional hit. So Exploding Sixes, +1 AP, +1 to charge. 5 Blood Tithe points for Savage Guidance, +1 to hit for melee attacks for every World Eater in your army. For 4 Blood Tithe points. And to the end of the battle, each time a World Eater's model from your army would lose a wound on a d6. On a 6, it's not lost, so a 6+ wound shrug for the whole army. Total Carnage for 6. Until the end of the battle, each time a melee attack is made by a World Eater model from your army, and a modifier roll of 6 automatically wounds. So you're talking about total carnage. So like, if you get all of these, if you've spent 10, 23, 27, 29, you can stack all these together. So 29 units have to die, or like a bunch of knights, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna stack like the additional stuff on top of it. Yeah, so it's a lot of like, it's a lot to get to all of them. I think you're probably gonna pick which ones are most effective early, like +1 to hit, Exploding Sixes, depending on the army, the AP one, yes or no, maybe. If you're playing orcs, you're not gonna care as much about the AP as other armies. The charge one as well, you could probably wait on. If you're not playing against a bunch of like psychic mortal wound damage, then we're waiting on Spiteful Nullification. But definitely the auto wounding, Total Carnage, it's expensive, but the wound shrug, the +1 to hit, and the Exploding Sixes, and maybe the +1 attack, Savage Guidance, these are all like, those are +1 attacks, sorry, +1 to hit. So yeah, +1 to hit, Exploding Sixes, and the wound shrug, that's only going to cost you 14 Blood Tithe points. You could probably get to that pretty early. I think you start with the +1 to hit because it just makes you more accurate. It makes your like heavy weapons that are -1 to hit 2 more accurate. You then do the wound shrug earlier rather than later, because maybe even start with the wound shrug earlier rather than later for 4 points, then go to the +1 to hit, then to go to the Exploding Sixes, then maybe the AP. But then you also have this one-time Reborn in Blood. Place a destroyed Angron model from your army into Blasphemous Reserve with 8 wounds remaining. That model is no longer considered to be destroyed, and can be set up again in your reinforcement step as if it had the Warp Strike ability. So Anglon's new thing is that 8 weeks, 8 days, 8 hours, and 8 minutes after he's banished, he just comes back now. There's too much warp stuff out in reality because of the Cicatrix Maledictorum. You can't keep him away. His rage is like, there's too much war happening in the galaxy, too much pain and death to actually banish him for any significant amount of time now. He always comes back. And this one, Reborn in Blood, if you've got 6 blood tithe points, you can just bring Angron back. That's horrifying with 8 wounds left. Horrifying. And so that's your blood tithe stuff. It's basically just ramping up your melee ability the more stuff dies on the table. And the trick is going to be, there'll be a bunch of debate, but what's the right order to start in? I think the Wound Shark one makes sense because it only costs 4 blood tithe points, and you want to activate it when you have the maximum amount of wounds on the table. It's only a 6, but that can be super relevant occasionally, especially with big multi-wound things, and it's any World Eater, right? So anything with the World Eater keyword is going to get it. Your vehicles are going to get it. Everything that's got wounds is going to get it. And then probably the plus to hit because you're just going to be trying to get into melee with everything anyway. All right, so then we got our 2 armies chunks, and this is my favorite part. Is it's just 4 pages. All of this entire codex, all of the stratagems, all of the relics, all of the army special rules that I haven't already gone through is just 2 pages. The whole army rules section is 6 pages. The whole thing, 6 pages, and we're on to data sheets. It's like a Christmas miracle in February. I'm so happy. So yeah, World Eaters. The Legion trait's Relentless Rage. At the start of the fight phase, if a unit made a charge move, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, +1 strength and attack. So they get shock assault and +1 strength. Great. Nice and simple. Easy to do. The relics, there are 3 of them. The Helm of Brazen Ire. Each time you make an attack against the bear, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So, yay. -1 to wound. Berserker Glaive. It replaces a Chainblader Axe. And it's +2 strength, -3 damage, -3 AP, and 2 damage. Each time attack is made with this weapon, a modified hit roll of 6 does 2 additional hits. So, no big deal when you see the attack stats on some of these guys. 6 double exploding 6s on the Berserker Glaive. It's legit. And then Talisman of Rage. In your command phase, select a World Eater's core unit from your army within 9 until the start of your next command phase. Each time a melee attack is made by a model in that unit, unmodified rolls of 6 automatically wound. So that can be really handy. There's no restriction about vehicles on that one either. It's just 6s to hit, auto wound. Send some Berserkers against the Knight and just make armor saves all day with lots of 6s. All right, Warlord traits, Favorite of Khorne. In your command phase, if this world's in the battlefield, get a blood tithe point. That one's pretty handy, actually. I think, looking at the 3 of these, I think you're always going to take that because it's going to ramp you up fast. True Berserker, each time a melee attack is allocated to the Warlord, have the damage. Pretty cool. And then Battle Lust, if this Warlord's eligible to perform a heroic intervention if it's within 6 and 5. And then start of the fight phase, the Warlord with engaged range and fights first. It's always charging, basically, and it gets a 6-inch heroic intervention. I think Favorite of Khorne's really cool. The Battle Lust thing's cool from keeping you from getting charged, right? Because you're going to jump into the combat with him. And then, I'm so happy. There's 8 stratagems. Makes sense. For 2 CPs, Red Butchers. Use a stratagem in your fight phase when a World Eater's Terminator or 8-bound unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase. Whenever that unit makes an attack, add 1 of the damage characteristic of the attack. So +1 damage in the fight phase. Very cool. Reason to take Lightning Claws and stuff too. 1 CP for Gory Dismemberment. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a World Eater's core or character unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, unmodified wound rolls of 6 do a mortal wound to a maximum of 6. That's addition to normal damage. Skulls for the Skull Throne. It's 1 or 2. Use it when an enemy warlord is destroyed by a melee attack made by a World Eater's character. Select 1 or both of the following. Either gain 2 blood tithe points, until the end of the battle, add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for that World Eater's character. So just pops the guy's head off and sticks him on his back. If you select this option, you select 1, it costs 1. If you select 2, it costs 2. So if you get both, it costs 2. But again, more ways of getting blood tithe points. Just for killing characters. Some armies, that's going to be great because there's going to be a lot of like little baby characters wandering around. But only if you kill them in melee. Oh, sorry, when a warlord, sorry, it's only the warlord, my bad. I read it backwards. It's when the warlord is destroyed by a melee attack made by a World Eater's character. So you get it once. Because only be one warlord. Unless, I guess, no, it'd still be one warlord, and you could generate additional command traits, but I think they don't count as warlords. All right, scoring a sorcery for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase after psychic test is passed by an enemy psyker. And they're within 24 inches of any world leaders, then on 4+, it's just denied. So, like, after your normal denies, and you just basically spend a CP and go, like, 4+, it's gone. You just laugh it off. Blood Frenzy for 1 or 2, using the fight phase. When an enemy unit's selected to fight, select a world leader's core unit from your army that's in engagement range. And when the world leader's guy gets destroyed, basically it's to fight before he leaves. If it's a troop unit, it costs 1, otherwise it costs 2. So, basically a fight before you die. Aggressive Intervention for 1 CP. Using the Heroic Intervention step of your charge phase, select a world leader's core unit from your army, and if it's within 6, it gets to heroically intervene. So you can buy the counter charge, basically. Smokescreen for 1, you get a Smokescreen unit, -1 to hit. And then Icon of Wrath for 1 CP. Use stratagem in charge phase when a ruler's icon unit from your army is selected to charge. Until the end of the phase, each time you make a charge roll for that unit, roll an additional d6 and discard the lowest. So 3 pick the highest for charges whenever you have an icon. I think most of your units can get icons, like the Jackals can. I think the Berserkers can too, as like a flag bearer guy. That's it. So there you go. So that was all of the World Eater stratagems and enhancements. Oh my god, please just make the entire next edition of books be like this. I would be so much happier. Make the unit data slates unique. We don't need the mental load of all of this wombo combo stuff. For the same reason I liked the new Grand Tournament pack, where it like pre-selected 3 of the basic ones for you. All right, so now the Disciples of the Red Angel is kind of like an army of renown. It has restrictions and benefits. When mustering this army, you must take Angron as your warlord. You can only include Khorne Demon and World Leader's Chaos Land Raider units. 8-bound units in your army have the Obsec ability. So it's just 8-bound, Angron, Demons, and World Leader's Land Raiders. I don't know why Land Raiders, but you can take Land Raiders. So, maybe he can go in them? I don't know. And then the Legion trait is Relentless Rage. At the start of the fight phase, if this unit makes a charge move or perform a charge, you get +1 strike that attack. So it's the same almost as that, but it's an all-demon force following Angron around. And yeah, it's just Khorne Demon, World Leaders, and Chaos Land Raider units. Relics, Burning Plate again, same thing. +1 armor saving throws made for the bearer and +1 to its wound characteristic. Soul Burner, it replaces an Infernal Cannon, and it's 12-inch range, assault 2d6, 7 -2, 1 damage, auto hits. It's like a super flamer. And the Skull of Angrant. In your command phase, select 1 enemy unit that's visible to the bearer until the start of your next command phase. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack against the selected enemy unit, you can reroll the wound roll. So you're going to stick these in your Demon Princes, I guess, and your Heralds. So Burning Plate's pretty cool for like a Demon Prince. +1 saving throws and +1 wound. Demonic Infusions. When mustering your army, you can select 1 World Leader's 8-bound unit from your army and select 1 of the following Demonic Infusions for it. Record the selection for your things. It's like an extra, like, it's not a Warlord trait. It's just because you don't get to pick your Warlords. They just give you something to add your 8-bound instead. Because obviously Angron's automatically your Warlord at this point. Drawn to power, each model in this unit counts as 2 models when determining control and objective. That one's going to be really cool because they're Obsec as well. Mutable Form, each time a model in this with this ability makes a melee attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound in addition to normal damage to a maximum of 6. It should have been 8. Come on, guys, I get it. Cap it for mechanical terms. Make it 8. Everything in this book should be 8. And then Brazen Skin, each time a model in this unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound of 4+ mortal wound shrug. So jack up your 8-bounds and then a couple relics to give to your Demon Princes and your Heralds. All right, and again, 8 stratagems, because they got the memo there. They understood the assignment. Gratuitous Bloodletting for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a World Leader's unit from your army is selected to fight. So again, this wouldn't apply to the Demons, interestingly enough. It would only apply to the 8-bound because they have the World Leader's tag. Or your Land Raiders, I guess, because they'd have the World Leader's tag, I think automatically. Yeah, it's weird. I guess, sorry, it would apply to Angron as well because he has the World Leader tag. Use stratagem in the fight phase when a World Leader's unit from your army is selected to fight. Select 1 enemy unit within the engagement range of that unit that's below half strength. Until the end of the phase, each enemy model in that World Eaters unit makes an attack against the selected enemy unit. Add 1 to the attack wound roll. Let me just double check the demons don't have the World Eaters tag. So, like, obviously most of them should. Because they all have Butchers, Astartes, and World Eaters. Okay, no, the Demon Prince has World Eaters, never mind. They all have World Eaters. Okay, it's not selectable. It's just, if they're Disciples of Khorne, then they have that additional thing to make them an attachment. Oh, even the Jackals have World Eaters. Okay. Yep, the 8-bound have World Eaters. The Hellbrute has World Eaters. The whole damn thing has World Eaters. Okay, great. Fantastic. So it doesn't actually matter. It's not selectable. I must have... Did I misunderstand the selectable part at the beginning? Because that's probably what happened. When you're mustering your army, if you include one or more World Eaters detachments, you must select one of the following sets of sub-faction rules for your army. Oh, it's not a selectable keyword. You're selecting sub-faction. Because that's the problem is having conventions. For the entirety of 9th edition, you've had to select a sub-faction keyword. In this case, you just select a sub-faction to be part of, and you use those 2 columns. I'm applying 9th edition logic to what's probably a 10th edition mechanic, where it's just sub-faction rules now, not a selectable keyword. Man, we get so ingrained through an edition to thinking things work a certain way. I automatically assumed the sub-faction was a keyword you were selecting, a selectable keyword, not just like a, hey, look, here's your sub-faction, just pick to have your army be part of that. Okay, so they're all World Eaters, so it's irrelevant. Yeah, so +1 wound for 1 CP for gratuitous bloodletting. And then Blood Set for 1 CP. Use stratagem in your opponent's movement phase when an enemy unit is in engagement range of any 8-bound units and they fall back. After that enemy unit's finished their fallback move, select 1 8-bound unit from your army that was within engagement range of the enemy unit that fell back. The selected unit can immediately consolidate, and when it does, each model in that unit can move up to 6 instead of up to 3. So run away and they just get next to you, and then use the CP to have them heroically intervene back into combat. The idea is you just can't get away from these Bloodbound. They fall back, you consolidate 6 towards them, because you're probably not moving, because you can't run and fall back, right? So you're probably not getting away. And then you just consolidate into a new combat, or you heroically intervene for a CP later on in a new combat. A cool, like, combo push, basically. Oh wait, those are separate unless they have that actually. I say that out loud, but then Aggressive Intervention is a World Eaters one. Can they do it? Do they have their version of that, I guess is my question. They don't. Yeah, they don't. Furious Surge? No, they don't actually have it, so you wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, there's no... I mean, anyone who could heroically intervene could do it, but unless they have that on their actual profile, they wouldn't be able to do it. All right, so Furious Surge. It's funny, I was doing, again, a 9th edition thing. I was combining the World Eaters stratagem with this one, but they're completely different silos. Use stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase after an enemy unit's finished making its attack. Select an 8-bound unit from your army that has 1 or more models destroyed as a result of those attacks. The 8-bound unit can make a normal move as if it was the movement phase. So you surge forward. Diabolic Machines, using your command phase when a World Eater's Machine Spirit or Demon Engine model from your army that has a characteristic that could change from damage is damaged until the start of your next command phase. That unit's considered to be full wounds. If it's Titanic, costs 2, otherwise costs 1. So your Lord of Skulls, whatever, comes back to full for 2 CPs, or 1 if it's, 1 if it's not Titanic. Apoplectic Frenzy for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your movement phase when a World Eaters unit from your army is selected to advance. Do not make an advance roll. Instead, just add 6. And then 1 CP for Violent Dismemberment. Using the fight phase when a World Eaters unit from your army destroys an enemy unit. Until the end of that turn, gain the following ability. Aura. With enemy hits within 6 of you, subtract 2 from their leadership and subtract 1 from combat attrition tests. You make an example out of that guy. And then Terrifying Assault for 1 CP. The enemy cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. In the subsequent fight phase, each time a model in that enemy unit makes a melee attack, subtract 1 from the army's hit roll. Because you're really, 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 really charging them hard. And then 1 CP for Bloodthirsty Determination. Use the stratagem in your charge phase when you select a World Eaters unit from your army to charge. Until the end of the phase, ignore any or all modifiers. So it's all about the 8-bound. It's all about getting them to combat and pushing them forward. And then lots of like chargey bonuses. And I'm reading it now because they all have the World Eaters keyword too. I was completely wrong in the beginning there. Blood Tithe applies to everybody. It applies to Disciples too because it's World Eaters. Not if every unit from your army has the World Eaters keyword, and because it's not a selectable keyword, they would all have it too. Then all the Disciples of Angeron can use it as well. That was me. It's funny how misreading a tiny part of that it's not selectable, it's just a sub-faction, would change the way that all this stuff reads later on. But yeah, no, the Disciples of Red Angel and the Blood Tide, or the World Eaters both use Blood Tide. But there's like World Eaters, and then there's World Eaters, Disciples of Angron. Because it's just the freaks that follow him around. Disciples of the Red Angel, sorry, that follow him around. All right, data sheets. I gotta say, this is hard to absorb as a digital thing. This is not as easy as actually reading a book, because I can't just, I'm reading it on my phone or I'm reading it on a computer. All right, Angron, the big boy. He's the focal point of this army, obviously. Yeah, he's horrifying at top bracket, 16-inch move, 2+2+, 9/7, tough strength to toughness, 18 wounds, 12 attacks, leadership down, 2+ save. I'm not going to talk too much about this guy. He's been spoiled all over Warhammer community, so if you're watching this and you're interested in World Eaters, you've probably already seen it for yourself. He's absolutely insane when it comes to being in melee. His two weapons have like a double profile, basically. You can Skull Taking Slash, where he's +5 strength, so he's strength 14, -4 AP, D3 +3 damage, and then like it's like his piercing strike, or just strength user, strength 9, -3 1 damage, and each time he makes an attack, make 3 hits instead of 1. Oh my god. So, and that would also apply all those exploding 6s and stuff too, if you paid the Blood Tithe points for it, because he's a World Eater. Yeah, so we're talking 36 attacks with exploding 6s, so 6 more exploding 6s would get you 6 extra attacks on 2s. He's horrifying. He gets Blood Tithe, Lord of the Arena. In your command phase, select a friendly World Eaters core or World Eaters character unit within 6, and just reroll hits. Armor of Spattered Brass, 4+ invulnerable, so he's 2+, 4+. Wrathful Presence. In your command phase, select one of the following abilities. This model has that ability to serve the next command phase. So either Infectious Rages an Aura, World Eaters core within 6 get +1 attack. Glorious Bloodletting Aura. When a friendly World Eaters unit within 6, this model makes this model, each time they make an attack, +1 to hit. Reroll hit rolls of 1. So you can either have a reroll hit roll of 1, +1 attack aura, or Righteous Slaughter. You can't fall back. Any units can't fall back for Righteous Slaughter. Any units within 6 of the models, that unit cannot fall back. So you can trap people with you. And that's anybody. Righteous Slaughter would trap a knight with him. Righteous Slaughter would trap anybody with him. That aura is the sleeper there, because you always think of auras as like, what can I do to buff the people around me? You can just keep Angron in combat with something to keep him safe for a turn too. So if you like multi-charge like a pile of tanks while that aura is active, you just are stuck in there with them and no one can shoot you because they can't fall back. Yeah, while a unit's within 6 of this model, it can't fall back. So he's like gloriously hard to kill once he's in melee. And then his Warlord trait, if your army is battle forged, this model must be your Warlord. If more than one model's army has this rule, then one of those models must be your Warlord. If this model is your Warlord, as the following Warlord trait: Red Angel Aura, while an enemy unit's with the objective security ability within 6, it loses it. It's like, you're not holding something against Angron. It's not happening. He's got Monster, Character, Fly, Supreme Commander, Demon, Primarch, Warp Locust, and Angron as his keywords. Yeah, he's absolutely horrifying. And he is... how many points? He's 360 points. That doesn't seem that expensive. I gotta say, 360 points for that seems relatively cheap. Like, he's a one-trick pony. He just kills things in melee, but he does what he says in the tin really, 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 really well. And that sticky ability, it means if you have more than one unit next to each other, he just dumpsters one, stays in combat with the other one so you can't shoot him, and then dumpsters it, and then moves on to the next thing. Kharn the Betrayer, all right. I love this miniature. He's 6-inch move, 2+2+, strength 6, toughness 4, 6 wounds, 9 attacks, 9 leadership, 2+ save. Plasma Pistol is a Plasma Pistol. It's always it's always supercharged, 8 -3, 2 damage. And then Goro Child is melee, -4, 3 damage. So strength 6, -4, 3 damage. He's a cool medium unit, like Annihilator. He'll just annihilate units of Space Marines. 4+ invul from his Sideshow Corruption. Legendary Killer is an aura. While a friendly World Eaters core gets within 6 of him, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll wounds rolls of 1. And the Betrayer, at the end of the fight phase, if there are any friendly models or units within 3 of this model, roll a d6. On a 1, they take 2 mortal wounds. Because you just can't stop killing, Morty. And then his abilities are Blood Tithe. His warlord trait is Arch Slaughterer. Each time this warlord is selected to fight, if there are 6 or more models within 3 of it, and until those attacks have been resolved, add d3 to the warlord's attack characteristic. Yeah, so as long as there's 6 or more guys within 3 of him, enemies, he gets plus d3 attacks. So, up to 12 attacks. And he's relatively inexpensive. He is, for a Karn the Betrayer, it's hard because there's the Crusade rules are at the end now, and so you have to go through everything, try and find the actual point values. There they are. Points and rules. Karn the Betrayer. He is 140 points. Not that expensive. All right, after Karn the Betrayer, we're talking... And a lot of these are copied from the Chaos Space Marine. It's not a lot new here, so I'm going to skip the Rhino. You guys know what a Rhino does. So we're talking the Lord Invocatus, who is the dude on the Juggernaut. 12-inch move, 2+2+, strength 6, toughness 6, 8 wounds. He is 7 attacks, leadership 9, and 2+ save. He's got a Coward's Bane is his weapon. It is a melee weapon. It's user strength -3, 2 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, invulnerable saving throws can't be made against the attack. I love that. And the Juggernaut's Bladed Horn. It's 3 additional attacks at -2, 1 damage. And he's got a bolt pistol. He can do Blood Tithe and Warp Strike, so basically he's using his Demonic Mount to Deep Strike, which I think is neat. Sagittal Corruption for a 4+ invul, and then Leading the Charge Aura. While a friendly world leader's core unit is within 6 of this model, each time that unit is selected to make a normal move or advance, add 2 to the move characteristic. So he basically pulls people in. If he's your Warlord, he has a Warlord trait, and then Road of the 8 Bloody Steps. At the start of the first battle round, before the turn begins, you can select up to 2 friendly world leaders' core units within 9. This unit that's selected can each make a normal move. So you basically surge before that game starts. So he's handy to take because he speeds everything up, and as a foot melee army, that's a big deal. And he's a relatively good fighter, you know what I mean? Strength 6 with 7 attacks, and -3, 2 damage. He'll mince a unit of Space Marines, or whatever the equivalent is. Immortals. World Leader's Daemon Prince. He's 8-inch move, but you can give him wings, obviously, to up his movement, I think. Yeah, with wings for a movement of 12, I think. And then 2+2+, strength 8, toughness 6, 8 wounds, 7 attacks, leadership 10, 3+ save. Obviously, if you take him in the Followers of Anger or Disciples of Angron, he can take that cool upgrade to get a 2+4+. And then Infernal Cannon. He's armed with base and Infernal Cannon, Hellforged Swords, Malefic Talons, his weird jacked up Space Marine war gear. The cannon's heavy 3, 5, -2, 2 damage, 24-inch range. And that's Demonic Axe for +2, -3, or -2, 3 damage. Hellforged Sword for -1, -3, 3 damage. Or Malefic Talons for -1, 2 damage, but you get to make an additional attack with the weapon, so you have 14 attacks. And then you can replace the Hellforged Sword with the Demonic Axe or Malefic Talons. Blood Tithe, Lord of the World Eaters. When a friendly World Eater's core is within 6, they can roll hit rolls of 1. Demonic for 4+ invul against ranged attacks and 5+ in melee. And then Fearsome Aura. When enemy is within 6 of them, subtract -1 from their leadership. And you can also do a World Eater's Lord on a Juggernaut too. So the Lord Invocatus is just I guess a champion version, a lieutenant version almost. And this guy's the leader version. The captain version. 2+2+, strength up to 6 as well, 8 wounds, 7 attacks, leadership 9, 3+ save, plasma pistol, exalted chain blade, and a bladed horn. The chain blade's -2, 2 damage. The plasma pistol does supercharge to 8, -3, 2 damage, so it can blow up weirdly, whereas the other one couldn't. And the bladed horn's the same. Blood Tithe, Sagittal Corruption for a 4+ invul, and then leading the charge, you also get the bonus moves. So the one teleports, the other one doesn't. Yeah, because he doesn't have the warp charge. And then a Master of Execution, which is just a World Eater one. And I love it's a converted miniature. Like, you could buy the Master of Execution, but they stuck a corn helmet on it and did a conversion in here. Yay, bring back conversions! Bring back equipable options and conversions. He's a Master of Execution. But he's got Blood Tithe. Trophy Taker, each time a model in this model makes a melee attack against an enemy character, you can reroll the wound roll. Warp-Sighted Butcher. This model is eligible to perform a heroic intervention within 6 and the usual stuff. If you can get, so long as it ends its move within engagement range of an enemy character, it can move up to 6. So basically, he's going after characters, and he gets the super heroic intervention if he's able to do so. His Axe of Dismemberment is going to be Strength 7, minus 3/2 damage, and each time an attack is made with this weapon, unmodified hit rolls of 6 inflict 2 mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends. Because he's going for the head. So those are your character options, right? So Master of Execution, World Eater's Lord on a Juggernaut. There's no Lord on foot, though. Lord Invocatus, and a Demon Prince. I'm really surprised. I mean, there's Karn. But, like, give me a Terminator Lord, give me a Lord on foot. I'm surprised they're not in here. I mean, I don't mind they're not in here, but that new World Eater kit is so cool. Like, it would have been cool to make up your own. Maybe it's just saving it for the new Codex that'll come out after this Codex. Khorne Berserkers, you've got 4 to 9 Khorne Berserkers as a unit, so min unit of 5. They are all base strength 5, so 6-inch move, 3+3+, strength 5, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 8, 3+ save. You can get an extra attack on your champion. He's the bonus guy, and they've all got a chain blade, frag grenades, crack grenades, a bolt pistol. So the chain blade is user strength minus 2/1 damage. And you can upgrade them to have Coronate Eviscerators, which are +3, -4, 2 damage. So strength 8, -4, 2 damage. No negatives to hit with them either. One guy can take a plasma pistol. For every 5 models a unit, you can have an additional guy with a plasma pistol. So the champion can have a plasma pistol. For every 5 models a unit, additional guy can have a plasma pistol. And for every 5 models, somebody can have an Eviscerator. And then you can have the Berserker icon, which gives you that surge. And they have Blood Surge and Blood Tithe. Those are special rules. Each time a unit is selected to shoot, if any of those attacks target this unit, after that enemy unit's attacks have been resolved, if any models from this unit were destroyed by the attack, this unit can make a Blood Surge move. If it does so, any actions it was performing fail, as if these guys are going to do actions. And then roll a d6. Each model in this unit can be moved a distance in inches, but must finish their move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit, not the unit that shot them. This unit cannot move within engagement range of the enemy. Other than that, a unit cannot make a Blood Surge move if it's the same turn it disembarks from a transport. Or if it's already engagement range of an enemy unit. So basically, shoot these guys at your peril because they're going to get closer to you. And that's your core choice. Then you got Jackals as your other core choice. Nope, not core actually. And these are your Cultists. 8 base to 17. You get a Pack Leader, a Dishonored, and 8 Jackals as your base unit. They're Cultists, so 6-inch move, 4+4+, strength toughness 3, 1 wound. 3 attacks base though. Leadership 6. The champion gets extra attack and a extra leadership. And the Dishonored strength 4. But otherwise the same as regular champion. And then the Jackal Pack Leaders equipped with an auto pistol and Jackal chain blades, and the Dishonored's just got Jackal chain blades, so no gun. It's an auto pistol, so strength 3, 12-inch range, pistol 1. Chain blades are just -1 AP. Melee weapons, Mauler chain blade, which the Dishonored has, which the I think the Dishonored can take it. Sorry, because it's an option. Any number of Dishonored can have a Skull Smasher. Sorry. And for every 10 models, you can have a Jackal icon. For every 10 models, 1 Jackal can have their Mauler chain blade, which is a big 2-handed one, so it's +2, -2, 2 damage. But you're -1 to hit. And the Skull Smasher is -2, 2 damage. And each time an attack is made with this weapon, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So he's going to have 6 attacks at strength 4, -2, 2 damage. They can Blood Tithe, and they have Jackal Stims, because they're all jacked up on corn blood. Once per battle, when this unit's selected to fight, declare it's going to use its Stims. If you do so, they take D3 mortal wounds, but until the end of the phase, they're +1 strength. That's why they all get the backpacks full of, like, whatever the corn angel dust is. It just gets them all ready to party. World Eater's Terminators are in here, which is why I was surprised the kind of venerable now Terminator Lord isn't. I thought he'd get included. They've got standard kind of Terminator stats, but extra attacks. So 5-inch move, 3+3+, strength up to 4, 3 wounds, but 4 attacks, and then leadership 9 and 2+ saves. Champion's got an extra leadership, extra attack. Combi bolters, accursed weapons, so +1 strength, -3/1 damage, but additional attacks, so 5 attacks each. And then the usual, for every 5 models in the unit, you can have a single heavy weapon like a Reaper autocannon or heavy flamer. One model can have a combi plasma, one model can have up to 2 models can have combi flamers, 2 models can have combi meltas, 1 combi bolter can be replaced with an accursed weapon. Neither model's accursed weapons can be replaced with a power fist or a chain fist. So you could have like a cursed weapon, or 2 accursed weapons, I guess, and then up to 3 models can have their accursed weapon replaced with a power fist, and 1 model's accursed weapon can be replaced with a chain fist. So no lightning claws, weirdly. Which kind of sucks because you almost want to use the Cataphractii Terminators for these guys. I guess you could use the other melee weapons. The Gas Terminators are cool, but the Cataphractii kind of fit the World Eaters theme as well. Or you can mix and match. Blood Tithe, Warp Strike, Terminator Armor for a 5+ invo, and then Malicious Volleys. Instead of the following, the normal rules for rapid fire weapons, this unit, models this unit shooting a combi weapon or bullet weapon, double the number of attacks if they're, instead of only when they're in half range. Because they're Terminators, so they're always standing still when they move and fire. So they always rapid fire with their combi weapon bolters. And they've just written it into the unit entry as opposed to having it be separate like it is for the Chaos Space Marines. Again, information you could just put in the data slate that doesn't need to be like an army-wide thing to bloat that section. All right, the 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound, which is like the character version. So 8-bounds are champions and 2 to 5 8-bounds, so up to 6 guys. I think they're boxes of 3. Their movement 9, weapons able skill 3+, strength 6, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 8, 3+ save. So for every 8-bound is equipped with 2 8-bound eviscerators, and the champion has lacerators. The 8-bound eviscerator is -3/2 damage and additional attack with the weapon, so they have 8 attacks each. The heavy chainglaive, which is their like upgrade, so the lacerators can take that instead, is going to be strength 7, -3/1 damage, but 2 attacks instead of 1 each. And then lacerators are +1 strength, -3, and then 3 damage each. So you're talking about 5 attacks at strength 7, -3 damage. I think I'd keep the lacerators because you've already got a gajillion attacks for the eviscerators that are 2 damage. And then their Blood Tithe, Demonkin for a 5+ invul, Fearsome, which is their aura. On enemy units within 6 of this unit, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of the models in the unit. Blood Scent, if this unit's in strategic reserve, it can be set up as if the battle round was 1 higher than it currently is, regardless of the mission rules, because they're just always ready to kill. And then another elite choice is going to be the Exalted 8-bound, which is the better unit version. So 2 Exalted 8-bounds and 1 Exalted 8-bound champion, because these are like the Exalted Possessed or the Greater Possessed or whatever version of these guys. And it means their backpacks got extra big. They're 2+, 3+, strength 6, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 8, 3+ save. Same eviscerators, same, but they can have an 8-bound chain fist for +3, -4, 2 damage. But then if the bear is equipped with 2 chain fists, improve its damage characteristic by 1 to 3. And then a heavy chainglaive, which is +1, -3, and then 2 attacks instead of 1. So the Exalted 8-bound all have 8-bound eviscerators, so the same like 8 attacks at 2 damage. The Exalted 8-bound champion, and they can swap it for chain fists. The Exalted 8-bound champion's eviscerator and 8-bound chain fist can be replaced with 1 heavy chainglaive instead. So yeah, so they've got chain fists and eviscerators, so you can either do like the high damage one, but you can also give them 2 chain fists for the extra damage if you want as well. Yeah, and there's no minuses to hit with the chain fists. It's just you get bonus damage, but less attacks. I'd like the option to switch, I think. I'd like to be able to make 8 attacks at damage 2, and then 4 attacks at damage 2, but like higher strength. There's no downside to that, really. And then they have Exalted Demonkin for a 4+ invulnerable save. They're fearsome, so enemies within 6 inches of them are -1 leadership, and then they also have Blood Fury. While an enemy unit, excluding vehicle units within 6 of them, each time that unit's selected to fall back or perform an action on a 4+, they cannot fall back, or that action automatically fails. So they're kind of half as sticky as Angron and keep them in, which is neat. All right, Hellbrutes. So yeah, so Exalted 8-bound and 8-bound units are pretty great, obviously, as far as Elite Choice goes. Your Hellbrute, he's standard cast Hellbrute, strength 6, toughness 7, 8 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, 3+ save, 6-inch move. He comes equipped base with a missile launcher and twin heavy bolter. Options for him are the twin heavy bolter can be replaced with one of the following: a Hellbrute plasma cannon, multi-melta, Reaper autocannon, Twids, last planet, or Hellbrute fist. The missile launcher can be replaced with a Hellbrute fist, Hellbrute hammer, or power scourge. Each Hellbrute fist is equipped with a following a heavy flamer or combi bolter. -1 damage from their monster resilience. They're the same, but they get blood tithe and they can explode. And then when they frenzy, if this model makes an attack, if it has 7 or fewer wounds remaining, reroll wound rolls a 1 because they freak out. Cast spawn. Pretty standard. Move 7, 4+ to hit, 5+ strength and toughness, or 5 strength and toughness, 4 wounds, 2d3 attacks, leadership 8, 5+ save, or 5+, yeah, just a 5+ armor save. You can have more than one model in it though, 1 to 5. They get blood tithe, they get fearsome aura, so maximum leadership within 6 of them, and then mutated beyond reason. They can't perform actions because that would be what you do. You'd spam the spawns to go do all your button pushing. The first time a unit selected to fight in the fight phase, roll a d3, and until the end of the phase, get the relevant bonus. So either Razor Claws, -4 AP. They have decent attacks. Strength 5 with 2d3 attacks at -2/2 damage. They can be -4. 3d3 if they have Grasping Pseudopods, and then Toxic Hemorrhage. Reroll the wound rolls. Hades Regeneration. Each time an enemy unit shoots or fights, after they make their attacks, if any models were wounded in this unit but not destroyed, they regain all their wounds. So they just go back to 4 wounds. And then a Chaos Land Raider, which feels weird to be in here, but is, because you can stick all your I guess, Chrome Berserkers in them, and you're 8-bound. I guess you'd have to, that's why the Land Raiders in the Disciples of the Red Angel, is because you can only put them in the transport, the Terminators and 8-bound models can only go in the Chaos Land Raider, so there's no point taking the Rhino. And it's a Land Raider. I'm not going to go too much into a Land Raider. That gets blood tithe, explodes. It can transport 10 models that are infantry, or it's 2 spaces each for Terminators and 8-bound. So 5 of them. Devour's a Devourer, gets blood tithe, gets Demon Engine, explodes. Strength 8, toughness 7, 14 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, 3+ save. Devour Cannon, heavy D6 blast, strength 8, -2, 3 damage. This is all the same as the Chaos Space Marine book. Devour Claws, ×2 strength, -3, D6 damage. And then the Chaos Predator Destructors. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Chaos Predators and Chaos Predator Destructors. You can go to the Warhammer app right now and look at them, and they're going to be the same. Forge Fiend's the same as in the Chaos Space Marine book. Same with the Mauler Fiend. But they get blood tithe. I didn't notice anything different with the Chaos Rhino. It's a Rhino. Toughness 7, 10 wounds. Helldrake's in here too. Good old Helldrake. Still has nothing particularly corny. He's got the World Years keyword though. So he gets blood tithe, Demon Engine. Lord of Skulls, 29 power. 10-inch move, 3+3+, strength toughness 8, 30 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 8, 2+ save. He comes equipped base with the Gorestorm Cannon, Hades Gatling Cannon, and a Great Cleaver. So the Gorestorm Cannon is 24-inch range, heavy 3d3, 9 -2, 3 damage blast. It's a hell of a gun. That's a hell of a rapid-fire battle cannon. The Hades Gatling Cannon is heavy 12, 8 -3, 2 damage. I mean, he's as good as an Imperial Knight, and the Great Cleaver of Khorne has 2 melee profiles. He's either strength 16, -4, 6 damage, with no minuses to hit. So he will nuke a knight, no problem, with 6 attacks hitting on 3s. And also, he's a World Eater, so you can buy him that +1 to hit, and it'll work. Because he has blood tithe. And then Slash, which is 3 attacks instead of 1, so 18 attacks at strength 8, -3, 2 damage. He's pretty great. How many points is he? The real question here. Lords of War. He's 575, and he's pretty great. I like him as a Lord of War choice. And in the new format for building armies, he's pretty cool. I mean, the new format for building armies, you just take 8-bound as your selectable 3 requisite things too. They, by the way, are 40 points per model at 3 to 6. The 8 bound is just 135 points for 3 models. You don't buy them model by model because it's capped at 3, the exalted ones. Yeah, that's looking like it. That's looking like our last unit entry. So pretty concise. Lord of Skulls, capping it off. Very melee-centric army. Word of the Crusade rules, of which there are. They're all about, you know, basically harvesting skulls as your agendas. How many guys do you kill? Keeping a big kill counter. There's lots of cool thematic rewards. There's basically like a skull harvest tracker sheet that you get. Your agendas are like proving your worth, where your Religious Lord or Master of Execution has to go do things to try and ascend into blood. You can demonically apotheosis, ascension in blood to become a demon prince, which is cool. And you get all kinds of neat relics. There's more relics in this section like than there is in the actual like army book, which I think is the point. Put all the cool stuff in Crusade, let people play Crusade to unlock these cool widgets. Having a million relics makes more sense when you're playing a narrative game. And I think that it adds value to the narrative game too. And you can also become a spawn, of course. And then there's a name generator, because there's got to be a name generator. Hang on. I want some corn names. Give me some sweet corn names. I've got my D6s ready for this. All right, D6. 33. My first name is Davask. And then 44, I'm just rolling doubles. Spine Crusher. It's Groundhog's Day, that's why. 45. Tarvak. 24. The Reaper. I love a good name generator. Some beautiful pictures of a Crusade army, and that's it. We're through the book. Point values I didn't get to. I said Karn's 140. The Lord Invocatus is 160. The Demon Prince is 130, and if you give him wings, he's 165. Lord on Juggernaut's 125. He's a bit cheaper because he doesn't have the Warp Strike. Master of Execution is only 65 points. And he's basically your Lord on foot. Jackals, 7 points each, 10 to 20. The Icon costs 5, Chain Blades cost 5, and Skull Smashers cost 5. Berserkers are 22 points, so you're looking at basic Space Marine costs. Icons 5, Eviscerators are 5, Plasma Pistols are 5 to 10 models. Like I already said, the 8 bound are 40 points each, 3 to 6, and the Exalted are 135. Hellbrutes are 105. Base. Twin Laws is 20. Heavy Bolters 10. Terminator Squads are 35 points each, 5 points for all the upgrades. Chaos Spawns are 25 points per model. That's why they can't do actions. Those are so cheap. I would take a lot of Chaos Spawns, I think, if I made this army as a fast attack choice. They're pretty cool. Laminator's 265, Predator Annihilators 130, Destructors 140, Defilers are 165 base, 10 points for most of the upgrades. Smaller Fiends are 140, 110 for the Forge Fiend, Helldrake's 165, 80 for a Rhino base, and then the Angron, like I said, is 360, which I think is a bargain. And then the Court Lord of Skulls is 575. Expect to see Angron go up in a data slate, especially when you can bring him back to life late game. Oh my god. And that's it. That was like so painless. I mean, I get that it's like a Leagues of Votann style newer army, but like I love this siloed sub-faction. My brain clicking in later on that it wasn't a selectable keyword too. It was great. And I feel like the army is going to be fun to play. The models are super cool. The background in this book's great. And I'm glad they got their own book. I'm glad they got updated models in their own book. I think this is going to be fun. I'm at least going to make a boarding party of these, which you can check out on the paint table. But I'm excited to see them on the table in the future. So big thanks for watching. Big thanks for the complimentary digital copy from Games Workshop to review. We'll see you for more of these in the future. Ton of mash. Double gamer. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.